Before I left, though, I had to know. Please, tell me, how did you get up to the roof so fast? I am really puzzled. He handed me back the wrench, saying, the world's a puzzle, no need to make sense out of it. He pointed to the shelf behind me. I'll need the hammer and the screwdriver now, over there. Frustrated, I watched him for another minute, trying to figure out how to get him to tell me what I wanted to know, but he seemed oblivious to my presence. I gave up and started toward the door, when I heard him say, don't go. He wasn't pleading. He wasn't commanding. It was a matter-of-fact statement. I looked at him. His eyes were soft. Why shouldn't I go? I may be useful to you, he said, deftly removing the carburetor like a surgeon in the middle of a heart transplant. He set it down carefully, and turned to face me. I was gaping at him. Here, he said, handing me the carburetor. Take this apart and put the pieces in that can to soak. It will take your mind off our questions. My frustration dissolved into laughter. This old man could be offensive, but he was interesting too. I decided to be sociable. My name's Dan, said, reaching out to shake his hand, smiling insincerely. What's yours? He placed a screwdriver in my outstretched hand. My name doesn't matter, neither does yours. What is important is what lies beyond names and beyond questions. Now, you will need the screwdriver to take apart that carburetor, he pointed. Nothing lies beyond questions, I retorted. Like how did you fly up on that rooftop? I didn't fly, I jumped, was his poker-faced reply. It's not magic, so don't get your hopes up. In your case, however, I may have to perform some very difficult magic. It looks as if I am going to have to transform a jackass into a human being. Who the hell do you think you are, anyway, to be saying these things to me? I'm a warrior, he snapped. Beyond that, who I am depends on who you want me to be. Can't you just answer a straight question? I attacked the carburetor with a vengeance. Ask me one and I'll try, he said, smiling innocently. The screwdriver slipped, and I skinned my finger. Dan! I yelled, going to the sink to wash the cut. Socrates handed me a band-aid. All right then. Here's a straight question. I determined to keep my voice patient. How can you be useful to me? I have already been useful to you, he replied, pointing to the bandage on my finger. That did it. Look, I can't waste my time here any longer. I need to get some sleep. I put the carburetor down and got ready to leave. How do you know you haven't been asleep your whole life? How do you know you are not asleep right now? He intoned, a twinkle in his eye. Whatever you say. I was too tired to argue anymore. One thing, though. Before I leave, will you tell me how you pulled off that stunt earlier? He walked up to me, reached out, and grasped my hand. Tomorrow, Dan, tomorrow. He smiled warmly, and all my earlier fear and frustration were washed away. My hand, my arm, then my whole body started to tingle. He added, it's been pleasant seeing you again. What do you mean again? I began, then caught myself. I know, tomorrow, tomorrow. We both laughed. I walked to the door, stopped, turned, stared at him, then said, goodbye, Socrates. He looked bewildered, then shrugged good-naturedly. I think he liked the name. I left without another word. I slept through my 8 o'clock class the next morning. By the time my afternoon gymnastic workout started, I was awake and ready to go. After running up and down the bleacher stairs, Rick, Sid, and I, along with our teammates, lay on the floor, sweating and panting, stretching our legs, shoulders, and backs. Usually I was silent during this ritual, but today I felt like telling them about last night. All I could say was, I met this unusual guy at a gas station last night. My friends were more involved with the stretching pain in their legs than in my little stories. We warmed up easily, doing a few handstand push-ups, some steps, and leg raises, and then began our tumbling series. As I flew through the air again and again, as I swung around the high bar, did scissors on the pommel horse, and struggled through a new muscle-straining ring routine, I wondered about the mysterious feats of the man I'd named Socrates. My ruffled feelings urged me to avoid him, but I had to make sense out of this enigmatic character. After dinner, I quickly read through my history and psychology assignments, wrote a rough draft of an English paper, and raced out of the apartment. It was 11 p.m. Doubts began to plague me as I neared the station. Did he really want to see me again? What could I say to impress upon him the fact that I was a highly intelligent person? He was there, standing in the doorway. He bowed, and with a wave of his arm, welcomed me into his office. "Please, remove your shoes." A customer of mine sat down on the couch and put my shoes nearby, in case I wanted to make a hasty exit. I still didn't trust this mysterious stranger. It was starting to rain outside. The color and warmth of the office was a comfortable contrast to the dark night and ominous clouds outside. I started to feel at ease. Leaning back, said, "You know, Socrates, I feel as though I've met you before." "You have," he answered, again opening the doorway in my mind, where dreams and reality became one. I paused. "Up, Socrates, I've been having this dream, you're in it." I watched him carefully, but his face revealed nothing. "I've been in many people's dreams. So have you?" "Tell me about Comrade Dream," he smiled. I told him, in as much detail as I could remember. The room seemed to darken as the terrible scenes became vivid in my mind, and my familiar world began to recede. After I finished, he said, "Yes, a very good dream." Before I could ask him what he meant by that, the station bell clanged, and clanged again. He put on a poncho, and went outside into the wet night. I stared out the window, watching him. It was a busy time of evening. The Friday night rush. Things got pretty hectic, with one customer driving in after another. I felt silly just sitting there, so I went out to help him, but he didn't seem to notice me. An endless line of cars greeted me. Two-tons, reds, greens, blacks, hardtops, pickups, and foreign sports cars. The moods of the customers varied as much as their cars. Only one or two people seemed to know Socrates, but many people looked twice at him, as if noticing something odd but indefinable. Some of the people were in a party mood, laughing loudly and blaring their radios, while we waited on them. Socrates laughed right along with them. One or two customers were sullen, putting forth a special effort to be unpleasant, but Socrates treated one and all with the same courtesy, as if each person were his personal guest. After midnight, the cars and customers became more scarce. The cool air seemed unnaturally still after having been filled with raucous noise and activity. As we entered the office, Socrates thanked me for my assistance. I shrugged it off, but was pleased that he'd noticed. It had been a long time since I'd helped anyone with anything. Once inside the warm office, I remembered our unfinished business. I started talking, as soon as I flopped onto the couch. "Socrates, I have a couple of questions." He held his hands in a gesture of prayer, looking upwards to the office ceiling, as if asking for divine guidance, or divine patience. "What," he sighed, "are your questions?" "Well, I still want to know about the roof, and why you said, 'I'm pleased to see you again,' and I want to know what I can do for you, and how you can be useful to me. And I want to know how old you are." "Let's take the easiest one, for now. I'm 96 years old, by your time." He was not 96. 56, maybe. 66 at the outside. 76, possible but amazing. But 96. He was lying, but why would he lie? And I had to find about the other thing he had let slip.